Hello and welcome everybody to the Housing Tips. It's the show where we talk about housing information, housing news, and everything in between. I'm your host Eric, and today is something you're really going to want to listen to today. Today we're reading an article from Zillow about how home values have flattened and sellers outnumber buyers now, which is something crazy to think that could even happen in 2025. So let's jump into it. So one of the first points that I wanted to bring up was that the market has definitely switched. It is no longer a seller's market where sellers could just put up a house and have multiple bids over asking. Now sellers have to work a little bit to get those buyers. And one of the most interesting things I wanted to bring up that was from the article was that there are now 1.15 million homes, 19% over last year, the most inventory buyers have seen since March of 2020, over 5 years, half a decade. And we're finally at a point now where the inventory is starting to rise to where it might be a little bit more normal. And my thoughts, honestly, I really thought 2025 was going to be a lot more like 2024. I thought that the inventory would slowly rise. If it's a really perfect house and it's something that's just amazing in every way, it will command an extremely high price. But based on this article, things are definitely changing, and it's no longer something where people can just look at a house unseen and just purchase it. And that's one of the main takeaways that I've noticed from this article was that now sellers are looking for buyers. Now, as someone who lives in Southern California, if the house is still perfect and it's properly priced, it's still going to go very quickly. But now I'm starting to see homes that are popping up that are no longer this dilapidated house that's just falling apart and people are overbidding. Now sellers are actually having to work on it, either giving concessions to the seller or taking money off the house or lowering their interest rate or giving closing costs. It's becoming very interesting and something that I've seen, that I've noticed in this area that I live and in the houses and the house markets that I follow. Now, one thing that I wanted to bring up was definitely the affordability crisis for purchasing a home. One of the big things that's highlighted in this article, and the reason why I wanted to bring it up, was that the median mortgage payment is still about 35.3% of a person's median income. And now the ideal rule of thumb is to keep it underneath 30%. So we're still seeing a massive drop between where it should be and where it is currently. And that's something that's leading to what I believe is having a shortage of buyers. And something that I've noticed, and of course this is something that I've seen personally, but it's not happening across the nation since I don't live across the nation. But something I've noticed in Southern California is a lot more houses that are coming back onto the market. So typically what I've noticed is a house gets posted on Zillow, then it becomes pending, then contingent, and then it's sold. But something I've noticed is a lot more houses are going under contract or they're going pending, but then they just stay there. And it goes for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden the house comes back on the market, either at the same price or slightly less. So just like the article is saying from Zillow, is one of the big things that I'm noticing is it could possibly be the affordability crisis, where interest rates are going up and down in price, and especially the interest rates, since they've been moving so drastically over recent times, is that if people are really on the edge of barely affording that house, whether they're at 49.99% or they're just under that threshold, sometimes the interest rate moving could actually mean they can no longer afford the house. And that's something that I've noticed, is that houses are going back on the market, which is crazy, crazy thought to think about, even in Southern California. Now, I do have a question for the audience, is that do you think 2025 is going to be more of the same, where there's a lot more inventory that's stacking up and sellers are starting to give more contingencies and being able to give more to the buyers? Or do you think it's going to be more of just buyers are going to start having their heyday once again and people are going to be able to make decisions and be able to do what they want with the house? Would love to hear your thoughts down below, but please let us know about that. And now moving on to what I think about the current article. What I thought about the current article was somewhat in line to what I thought 2025 was going to be, except for it's on a much larger scale. I thought 2025 was going to be a lot like 2024. More inventory building up and then buyers slowly meeting the demand to what the sellers are going for. But I've been completely blown out of the water that 2025 is shaped up to be the pendulum completely swinging to the buyer side, where there's a lot more inventory popping up and there's a lot more contingencies, there's a lot more concessions being done to purchase a home. And one of the interesting things that I actually found for myself is that in Southern California, if the house is still perfect, it has a nice kitchen, it's perfect in every way, good location, and the price is very comparable to what it should be, the house still sells extremely fast. But I've noticed is that those houses that are extremely on the high end, they're extremely nice, or on the other end, they need a lot of work, but they're still commanding a high price. I've noticed that they're still sitting on the market and they're still looking for sellers to give a little for those buyers to come in. So my thoughts is that 2025 is going to be a little bit more towards the buyers, and anything can change if interest rates come down or more inventory hits the market. It could definitely shift the pendulum back and forth, but I think that 2025 is going to shape up to be a buyer's market. And if you're looking for a home, it definitely might be a time to start looking. But as always, I want to pass the question off to you. Do you think, based on this article, that 2025 is going to shape up to be a buyer's market? Or do you think that eventually things will start equaling out and maybe it might go back to a seller's market? Would love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. But as always, if you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. But as always, thank you so much and have a great day.